And we're live! Yay, everybody. This is Omar from Human Condition. Thank you again for joining us for our new segment, Old Reader, New Readers. And just to clarify, old does not mean age. I've just been reading comic books for a while. Totally not talking about age. Today we are going to be talking about not this whole list, just the Green Lantern Rebirth portion of this. And joining me today is Amanda.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And also Maddie.
Hey, I got my stuff to work this time.
Awesome. Okay, so let's before we start that talking about this, just a heads up. There is a little bit of a spoilers we're going to be talking about. Of course, we have to be talking about spoilers because the story is about 10 years old. So, if you don't know what it is now, maybe stop watching this and then watch it later. But we'd love to talk to you all. Let's start it with this. So the story of Green Lantern Rebirth, all you have to know beforehand is that probably 10 or 11 years prior to that, Hal Jordan went kind of crazy out of nowhere. And it all started in this book that you can get. This is also available in another trade paperback collection called, I think, Baptism of Fire or something like that. But this is Kyle Rayner, Volume 1. So what happened was that Mongol and the Cyborg Superman during the Return of Superman storyline destroyed Coast City. And in destroying Coast City, Hal Jordan just kind of went crazy and decided to kind of bring people back to life using the Green Lantern rings. Well, that didn't suit well with the Guardians, the little blue guys that made the rings. So they were like, Hal, you can't do that. You're breaking the law. So he was like, fuck it. I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm Hal Jordan, and I'm grieving. So they sent out Green Lanterns to stop him. And Hal Jordan kind of picked them off one by one, killing his own friends, which is out of character for him. I believe it was Ron Mars that started writing this like an issue before this started happening. So this was issues 48, 49, and 50. They even sent Sinestro out to get him, and he broke Sinestro's neck. He killed Kilowog. He killed all these people that he's known all his life, and eventually killed all the Guardians and stepped, except for one, Gambit, and stepped into the big lantern at Inoa and became the Parallax. That's what he was known as. He had a cool cape, and eventually that character became sort of a villain during Zero Hour. Kyle Rayner, this guy right here, became the only Green Lantern of Sector 2814, and they kind of fought a few times, and then there was this crossover called Final Night, where Hal Jordan made the ultimate sacrifice of killing himself to reignite the sun, because the Sun Eater was killing our sun. So he kind of died a martyr, and then he kind of became the Spectre, and the Spectre in the DC universe is kind of like the spirit of vengeance, if you will. And that's kind of where we are with this. And the first person that was brought back to life before this was Ollie, because Ollie had been dead since Green Arrow 100. And the Spectre had a little bit to do with that. And now Oliver Queen shows up in Green Lantern. So Parallax is kind of no more. Hal Jordan is now Spectre, and Kyle Rayner is the only Green Lantern of Earth. And slowly, in his own series, there were other Green Lanterns that started coming back. And that's where we start with Green Lantern Rebirth. Now, this is both of your first time reading this story, right?
Yes.
Right.
All right. So who wants to start? I've been talking a lot, so who wants to start?
Sure, I can go. Well, I really enjoyed this six issue series that we got to read. I like the story. There's a lot of depth to it. Geoff Johns, that's how you pronounce his name, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Geoff, okay. Yeah, I really liked his writing. He made it really easy for someone who's not familiar with the story to come in and understand what's going on. I like the suspense right in the beginning with Kyle's crash. I think that set it up really nicely with the coming conflict. And my favorite thing, I think I mentioned this to you in a separate like text message, I love the coloring in this and the art in it, but mostly the colors. Just the way the colors pop on here the greens and the yellows, I think is fantastic. That's probably one of my favorite things about this.
Maddie,
All right.
would you like to add
So
your?
I was super confused at first. Like, and I mean, because I haven't read any Green Lantern really. I've read a little bit of stories with Hal Jordan in them, and I know the names of some of the characters, and I knew that I was supposed to make fun of Guy Gardner, and that's about as much as I knew going into this. And I really liked it. And as the story went on, I understood because they did a good job of kind of talking a little bit about what happened before. Though I wouldn't say this series is completely accessible to new readers, you know. But I was I was so confused in the beginning because I understood that I was a little confused about Hal, and I didn't understand what the Spectre was. And when they have that scene at the what sports ball game was it?
The
Was it
baseball.
Baseball game?
Yes, yes,
I
that was
couldn't
his
remember. Okay,
Jesus
so at the
moment. That's what I
baseball
call
game,
it.
at the baseball game, and everyone started going up to Hal and was like, "Hey, here are all my sins." It's like so confused, and it wasn't until after I read it and I watched a couple of videos to kind of help me figure out a little bit more about it that I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what happens because he's the Spectre, and that's how this
Oh, spirit.
kind of
The spirit, yeah.
works." I was like, what? What does this mean? But I really did like it. I think it was a nice kind of entry into that because you get to see all of these Green Lanterns together, all these big name Green Lanterns. And not
Yes.
only that, but I think my favorite part, I don't want to talk too much before we start talking about it, but my favorite part of it was when they talked about the difference between how each lantern used their power. I think that was my favorite part of it because we have John Stewart, right?
Yes.
Who he knows that like exactly how everything he creates is made. And so he builds it piece by piece. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And then you have Kyle Rayner, who does more the sketching.
He's the artist.
Yeah. And then Guy Gardner, who's just can't control his emotions and powers. He's always kind of leaking out because he's a crazy person. And just all that. I think that was my favorite part, to kind of see how they differ, not just in personality, but also how their power differs. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm glad I chose this book because I'm going through a rough time right now with work and not knowing what's going to happen. And it's another reminder because the last time I read this, it was probably as it was coming out. I was going through the final stages of a divorce, and I thought it's about redemption, right? Because when Hal Jordan died, he was nobody believed in him anymore. It was like, Jon Stewart is still talking about getting how when Hal said everything was going to be fine, like he really believed it. I thought that was really cool that a few people still believed in him. Batman, absolutely not. Batman was like, no, he's a murderer, and there's a wonderful scene that I'll talk about here in a minute. But no way do I trust Jordan. I never did. He was always cocky and things like that.
Yeah.
So by the time that it's a really so here's the thing that you all don't know. The concept of the parallax being a parasite that infected him, that lived inside of the Green Lantern, the Lantern, that was this. That was introduced in this. That was not that's what's called a retcon. And that to me is probably one of my favorite retcons because it makes it fixes something that was bad into something that is, oh, that's awesome. That totally, sure, that bullshittery makes sense. Whatever. That science is great. I get it. So I thought that was introduced that in this. Like the parallax to us was just what the name that Hal Jordan took. In this, they were like, no, it's an actual entity that has been, subdued by millions of years by the Guardians, and they never told anybody about it. And now it it feeds on fear and infected Hal, and that's why he went gray early. Because if y'all don't maybe remember, like Hal Jordan had gray hair before this, so it was really cool to see that, and then Spectre and Hal, and I'm sure you were confused, Maddie, and the Parallax were all fighting. All three of them were having this horrible threesome that were just, they were just fighting each other. So I thought it really cool that was retconned and explained in that way. That and it also sets up for like other stories
Mhm.
later on. I mean, you have like I wish you all could continue reading this, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But like this sets up so much later on of the Green Lantern mythos, like and brought back Sinestro, so Sinestro's back, so he fought that, and I love that scene when he gets punched by Sinestro. Like as soon as Hal came back, his dad's talking to him. He tells him to go for the light, and he catches the ring, and he's
Yeah.
back being in Hal Jordan. And I thought that was great when he gets punched by Sinestro. He was like, "Damn, I've missed this." Oh, that was such an awesome scene. There were so many moments in this book that
Yes.
I would love to talk about. So, Maddie, you
Well,
talked about your favorite moment, right? Was that
Yeah.
your favorite moment, or is that one of your favorite moments?
I think that's my favorite moment. Although I think a lot of it's really fun, and I have a lot
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about for it. But I think my favorite moment is just the dissection of their powers for sure. But I liked this retcon a lot, and I can see where it must have been so exciting for readers that got to read that currently as it was going, because I'm sure that was if I think about my favorite superheroes, if they did something like how Jordan did, where he went
Right.
crazy and murdered
Yeah.
everybody, it'd be a great, interesting story, and I'd be appreciative of that, but I'd be so bummed out because I'm like, well, what does this mean? Can I even have this character come back to me? I don't understand I understand why
Yeah.
they went crazy, but it's a little much given their character, and to have it be explained in a really cool, interesting way must have been pretty exciting because now it's like, well, he can be really fully redeemed. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
Like there was this thing in you and you didn't know, and it's not your
Yeah.
fault. And we can bring that
Yeah.
Green Lantern back to us, and we
And
can
I
have
love
this
the fact
again.
that Batman was still like bullshit.
Well, of course
Yeah,
he
that's-
was.
that's
He
cute.
doesn't
He was
trust
like,
anybody.
You're trying to tell me that a parasite infected Hal? Whatever. I don't believe
Yeah.
it. I love
I
that.
love that. He's so real. Yeah. He just
Because Batman feeds off fear, and that
Mhm.
actually
Yes, that's how he lives.
plays
Yeah.
that's how and that actually plays an awesome part later on, like in the Green Lantern story. It's really cool. So my one of my other favorite scenes is I will show you is when Batman's like, you're not going anywhere, and it goes back to Batman knocking the shit out of Guy Gardner in Justice League International, the Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis run. But I love this scene when Hal just punches Batman out
Yes.
with one punch. And Guy Gardner's like, "Did you see that? It was just one punch." Oh, I love that. Because he doesn't have time. He's like, dude, I gotta go and fight this fucking guy. Stop being a dick for a minute.
Yeah.
I like how everybody has back to like all the Green Lanterns did, and then I always forget his name, but like OG JLA Green Lantern. What's his? Who's not a Green Lantern?
Oh,
wait.
Alan Scott.
Yeah, and he was like, "No, you can't. Sorry, they gotta take care of this."
He's the Golden Age Green Lantern has nothing to do with the Green Lantern rings. His power's on magic.
Yeah,
But he was still in this. I'm glad they included him, his daughter Jade.
yeah, Jade, I love her.
So, what about you, Amanda? What was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment in the
You can have more than one, I'm sure.
I know. Well, I mean, I liked when the Green Lanterns finally got together and fought. Mainly just because the way the panels were laid out, I just really liked seeing that. That's one of my favorite things about it is there's really good sequence to the events, and it's not just choppy. You can see the action flowing. So I think that's one of my favorites. And I like when he comes back with Oliver and Kyle to help fight Sinestro, mainly because I was really happy to see Oliver Queen because I love
You love
Green Arrow,
Arrow?
so I was really excited to see. Yeah, I love Arrow, but I was really excited to see that. It was a nice surprise for me when I was like, "Oh, look, it's Oliver Queen." So
Yeah, they were Brave and the Bold and all that. Like
Yeah.
all those
Well,
books, they had team up books too back for a
Yeah.
long time.
They had
And
to
like
run
Ganthet-
together, right? Green Arrow.
Yeah. Like a road and Neil Adams. That's a classic run. Well, and I'm sorry, what else did you like?
Oh no, I was saying that
What
there's
else?
that one scene where Ganthet had told Parallax he had basically pissed off Sector 2814, and he's looking at the Green Lanterns like, no, not them, and then he points and it's like the whole Justice League. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I was like, that's the Justice League that I want to see.
there are a lot of moments in this book that I enjoy. Geoff Jones, like Geoff Johns is a fan first and then a writer. So I feel like every time I'm reading a Geoff Johns book, he's writing to me. I'm like, oh, Geoff, you knew exactly what I would have said there. You're so good at this. But he really is. He like, there are other fans that unfortunately are writers that are not that great, but he just happens to have such, to me, a huge talent. I mean, he worked with Richard Donner. He even brought Richard Donner back into the comic books to do a few Superman stories. But my favorite scene, like, and oh god, there's so much about it. I still quote of his from Infinite Crisis and Justice Society of America and Flash and Green Lantern. But this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's when the Parallax is fighting Hal, and this quote always echoes in my head, where he's telling him to give up and just lay down and die, and finally the Parallax is like, "Give up, damn it!" And then Hal's like, "I never learned how," and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so badass!"
It is.
Like, Kyle Rayner was always my Green Lantern. Like, growing up, he was the one that I would read about and follow his adventures and could relate to, because he was kind of like the new kid, had no idea what to do with that power. He was the artist. But then I think the older I get, the more I relate to Hal. Like, especially in stories like this, when nobody believes in you, and the stories about redemption. I think it's great.
Yeah. I just like how the story is, they talked about the emotional spectrum and hope and fear. And I think that is what makes the story so great, is that there are these bigger issues, these bigger themes that they're talking about that, we may not get in some other comic books. And just that you can relate to as an adult now, or even as a child, it may just seem like two different entities fighting. But now as an adult, you see it as, how Jordan has to reconcile with his fear and his quest for vengeance and come out on the other side of that. And they talk about willpower and hope. And my favorite Batman quote, which is why you said like how Geoff Johns really is a fan first, when he says to Superman, he's like, "Hoping is what you do best, Clark." I just thought that was cute. I was like, yeah, you're right. That is what he does best.
The best Batman quote that Geoff Johns wrote was in Infinite Crisis. It's the part where he's just going off on Superman, and he was like, "The last time you inspired anybody, Clark, is when you died." And I was like, "Oh shit!"
Dang.
Geoff Johns,
right? Yeah.
I just love the way that he writes. I love, and it's also bittersweet too, like, because the city is slowly coming back. I'm sure you all saw that. Like,
yes.
Because, DC magical powers and logic. And I love the part where he runs into Carol, his old girlfriend, and sadly she is, she's married now.
To Gil.
Has a kid. Yeah. And it's kind of letting go of the past. Like, you got to move forward. It sucks, but you got to keep on trucking, and that's what life is about. And oh my god, I can't recommend this enough. Now, was this a good suggestion though for first time readers? Because Maddie, you seem lost.
Yeah, and I think I did okay because I know a little bit. But it's not because I've read, because I've watched a lot of videos. Or because from talking to you, because you've talked me through, kind of what happened with Hal, like, and so I know that story that happened before this because of you. But I wouldn't know that otherwise. I feel like for most people that'd be really confusing, but I don't know if that doesn't really take away from the overall story of it. I think you can still read it and appreciate what happens with these characters in it. And I do think and it offers a unique perspective into Green Lanterns that I don't think you get for another read. It kind of gives you a lot of information in one go about how their powers work, especially not just because of like talking about each one, but also like that part with Ollie using the ring to make the arrow,
using the ring.
And talking about how much it requires of you, like of your mental and emotional capacity, because you have to be that emotion as much as you can to control your powers and things. But I really like it. I think it's really good. I don't think I would recommend it to a new reader to comics in general. maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe a new to Green Lantern, sure, but I don't know if I'd say.
New to
I think you need a
comics.
little more
Yeah,
before
something a
going
little bit
in.
easier read. Yeah, because I mean, the
Well,
first,
it is called
first,
Rebirth. Like, I'm sure most people are like, when
what
did he
happened?
die? Like, I'm missing
Yeah.
part of the story.
Or
No,
at
I
the very
understand.
least, to really appreciate where he's coming from, Hal in particular.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You know, because if you don't know,
there is a lot of background.
yeah, just because I think it'll help you. I can see where people who have that knowledge going in could appreciate so much more his transformation and his road to redemption and the reactions of those around him, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Because I think
Absolutely.
was it like was it issue 3 or 4 where Kyle explained kind of what happened
Mm-hmm.
to Ollie, and that helped because yeah, you're right. The
Yeah.
first couple issues was like, why does he have this specter inside of him? And then once Kyle explained it, granted it was a very brief version of probably what happened before, but it helped a lot with the
Yeah,
last
10 years of
issues.
comic history.
Yeah, it's like let's
Yeah.
condense it, but they did a good job of doing that. I'll give them that.
Yeah,
Trying
for
to condense
sure.
all that history into a few panels to explain it. They did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, Amanda, you were a
Yes.
new reader to this, and you haven't read a lot of DC.
I have not.
And
Yeah, this would be my first.
how were you able to keep up then? Like, were you?
Well,
Were you
yeah.
well, you said you were confused at first, but
Yeah,
then the
just
story
because
moved
of
on.
the story itself, where they were going. But I mean, the characters, since I watched the DC TV shows, you see characters pop up them. Oh, I know their backstory. It may not exactly be like in the comics, and I've seen all the DC movies, so you have that going in there. Even Green Lantern, which I thought was super appropriate that we did this right after Deadpool 2. I'm not going to say why, but if you saw that movie, Ryan Reynolds has a pretty mean swing at his
he does some redemption of his own in that movie.
Yes, he does do some redemption, and Warner Brothers and him been firing back tweets back and forth about it. But yeah, so going into that, like my earliest experience with Green Lantern was the Justice League Cartoon Network TV show cartoon.
Oh yeah,
so that was my only like.
And that was Jon Stewart.
That was Jon Stewart. Yeah, exactly. So, but the characters and everything, I didn't have a problem with that. It was just at the beginning, understanding where Hal was coming from. So I thought he was dead, and then all of a sudden he shows up at the baseball game. That was a little confusing. But then once we got to that, I think it was the 3rd or 4th issue where they explained it, then the rest of it kind of just flowed naturally just fine for me. Except for, is it Hammond?
Hector Hammond?
Yes, Hector Hammond, the beginning and the end.
Never trust any guys.
Is that the big head guy?
Yeah.
Who is he?
He was from the movie, right?
Wow.
No. Really stupid. I did not understand. I was like, I don't know who this big head guy is.
He is from the comic books, not the movie.
No, I know he's not from the, but that's how I was like, oh, I think I've seen him before, and that's why. Okay.
Now he plays a bigger role later on because he kind of senses something else coming. So it sets up the ongoing series, which is called No Fear. What did you all? There's something we didn't talk about, and I have to bring it up. What did you all think of the artwork? You mentioned color, but what did you think of the art in this book, in the series, in the miniseries? It's this Ethan Van Sciver.
Me too. I absolutely loved it. It was much better than Infinity Gauntlet.
Hey,
we're talking about what we were
talking about. George Perez. What the hell?
No, I enjoyed it.
To me, I've always thought like him and Ivan Reyes are the two definitive artists on Green Lantern. I love their stuff.
Yeah. Just the attention to detail alone, I thought was phenomenal in it, and their depiction of the characters.
There's so much detailed in each panel and stuff.
Oh yeah, so much to look at.
And I'm sure a lot of it too has to do with the inker. You know, even though he inks a lot of his own stuff, but just so much stuff. And you also have to think, like when Maddie described, I'm gonna try to find it, like the part when they're fighting the Parallax, how each one of them fight differently.
Yes.
Like this is the part she was talking about.
Yes, that part.
He also had to like capture different styles, right? Like he had to draw all the nuts and bolts when it's Jon Stewart. He had to draw this green ball of rage dead guy Gardner. He had to, do his own art stuff when he's doing it as Kyle. So I thought that was really cool that an artist like him was able to adapt that. And he's damn good at like just sequential storytelling. I've always enjoyed his art, over detailed or not. Personally, whatever you think about Ethan Van Sciver, guys, this is definitely one of those times that I separate the artist from the art because I love his stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much Green Lantern Rebirth in a nutshell. 6-issue miniseries. So, have you both seen the Green Lantern movie?
No.
Yes, once, many, many years ago. It was 2011 when it came
out. Yeah, that's like probably one of the worst superhero movies ever.
It is. Agreed.
And
I even watched the Honest trailer today just because.
That's very appropriate.
I know.
And reading this, okay, so both of you reading this, did you think, how did they fuck that movie up when they could just borrow so much from the comic book?
I mean, you can say that about a lot of movies.
Yes, but they did have there's so much emotional depth to this. I didn't understand why that was so lacking in the movie when you could have so much with these characters, like just the interaction between the Green Lanterns themselves. You don't even need a lot of outside characters. Just, when Hal introduced himself to Kyle, it was just, even though I didn't know the backstory between how Kyle came to be, it just seemed like it should be an iconic moment to me, the way they met. And there's just certain things that I was like, how? They didn't have the right actors, they didn't, or something, or the right writing.
I feel like the people that make some of the live action comic book movies, and maybe a little more on DC side, and by maybe I mean definitely, I think they don't trust their audience to know or appreciate it. I think I think you need to, if you watch the DC animated movies, they don't. They assume that you'll be fine. You can catch on to whatever history is there already. And they don't worry about having to build it up in a way that's not genuine. It's already there. It's already laid out.
Yeah.
It's up to you to put the dots together because you can. The audience is smart.
Yes.
You don't always need all the details.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. Because I'm thinking of the very first DC animated movie was the Death Return of Sin. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's an awkward place to start. Won't people care? How are you going to get emotionally attached to a character like Superman if you don't know anything about him in the movie, right?
Yeah.
But I thought you said it though. The audience is smart enough to put the puzzle pieces together, and maybe that was the problem with a lot of their movies, or maybe they were just, they wanted to make it darker and things like that. Because honestly, I mean, Nolan's trilogy was really solid. I thought the Batman stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think. I think they decided they took that okay, this works. Let's keep doing it. But that's not applicable for every hero. And that's not applicable for every story. Not every story needs to be dark. You have some really good, charismatic characters in the DC universe that aren't getting the light of day because of the movies. They aren't getting the appreciation they deserve. And so then I have to really twist some arms to get people to read DC because the Marvel movies are great. And I'm like, oh, but DC. And they're like, I don't think so. And even I was like, man, Superman, hard pass. And now look at me.
No,
Tomasi ruined me, and now I love him.
That's right.
And I think Green Lantern is probably the same way for a lot of people too. That if they read the comics, they wouldn't feel that way. And now I want to read more. And I didn't even watch the movie.
That was my next question.
Never need to, so it's fine.
That was my next question. Would you be interested in keep reading this? To keep reading what happens to how the Green Lantern gets recharged, reborn?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because I feel like the Hal Jordan saga, it's almost like the DC version of what Marvel was doing with the cosmic universe. But it was mainly Geoff Johns in control of thing. Yeah. He's the one that sets up the Sinestro Corps. There was no Yellow Lanterns rings, Oh my God! And then they introduced the Red Lanterns, and you're like, oh my God, they're gonna go through all the whole color spectrum, and it brought out the 15-year-old in me, oh my God, different colors. Yes, this is gonna be so badass. And then everything led up to Blackest Night. I remember reading the Sinestro Corps War when it was coming out. And the special, the one that set it up, the ending, the very last page. This is going to sound so dorky, but I was genuinely worried about what was going to happen to Earth and to Hal Jordan and the rest of the Green Lanterns, because the cliffhanger was so awesome that I'm like, oh my god, they got the baddest motherfuckers in the galaxy are coming to Earth to destroy it. What the hell are the good guys gonna do? I'm not gonna spoil who was in that last page, but if anybody read it, they'll know who I'm talking about. You're like, oh my god, how are they gonna figure this out? How are they gonna win? No, I absolutely highly recommend both Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps by Peter Tomasi. And both
Tomasi. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, that's right, you're in, and you're gonna love Geoff Johns by the time this is over.
I mean, I really like Geoff. I mean, I did read all of his Teen Titans run. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I told you. No, it's Teen Titans stuff is good. And honestly, he's just one of those writers that, to me, anything he touches is solid. I have purposely not kept reading Doomsday Clock because I was not that impressed by issues 1 and 2. It's kind of a semi-follow-up to Watchmen, and I don't think it needs a follow-up, but it's kind of introducing the character to the DC universe and something else. So maybe I purposely avoid that because I hold Geoff Johns on a pedestal that's like, no, he can't write anything bad. You know what? If he did, I'm just not going to read it.
Done. Maybe at all. I'm waiting until it's all done.
True.
But speaking of Green Lantern related stuff, maybe we need to do an episode as a group once all the Dark Knight Metal stuff comes out with the Omni, because I watched a little bit about the Green Lantern related stuff, and it is really cool. Pushing that emotional spectrum, it's really cool, and I don't even know anything about all of that. But it was
well, you should totally keep reading this because it's so good, and by the time it gets to Blackest Night, it just, it's a beast. Like I remember the ad for Blackest Night. They were like, in 2004 it was Green Lantern Rebirth, and then in 2006 we brought you the Sinestro Corps War, and then in 2008 we're bringing the Blackest Night. And I'm like, oh my god, what does that mean? Oh, it's so great. Like, reading those as we're coming out, like, it reminded me of being a teenager again, reading Uncanny X-Men or New Teen Titans. I was so excited for the next issue to come out. The next part had to come out because I'm like, you wanted to know what happened to these characters that you cared about. But yes, Green Lantern, I strongly suggested. Amanda says, what was it that you said, Amanda?
Oh, I said I would keep reading it. I want to get to Blackest Night. You keep talking about it.
You should. You've got to. It's so good. I can give you that reading order, how to read them and stuff like that.
Yes, you'll have.
If there's so much that. Anyway, I can talk. We can do a whole episode on how good Green Lantern is. But yeah, rereading this, since I have the omnibus, I just kept reading. I was like, I was done with No Fear, and I'm like, oh wait, we don't have to talk about any of this. Damn it! And it's so good because then they also included the Green Lantern Recharge, which is the beginning of the Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he co-wrote that. Oh, it's so good. And there's Ivan Reyes. He becomes a regular penciler on the run.
Okay.
On the ongoing series. So, I strongly recommend it. I still think it's kind of a good starting point for new readers. Maddie disagrees with me, and that's okay. She can be wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd recommend it to other people that maybe read some more DC Comics stuff already.
No, I can see.
I have a general background of DC Comics, so when you throw all this stuff at you, you're not completely confused.
Guys, the Spectre is not that confusing. He is the spirit of vengeance. I even think they even say that in one of the books.
But
then you also have weird Guy Gardner, who's like,
because
I was an alien, but now I'm not.
All right.
I'll give you this, but you don't know why because you've never read this.
I'll give you that. Okay, Guy Gardner Warrior. I forgot about that. But okay, so yeah, I definitely I still stand by this is probably where you should start reading Green Lantern with the rules that Amanda and Matt
did.
Quick question. A little bit of a back.
Is there a new
Yes.
run of Green Lantern that just recently came out like a couple of years ago, or this? Is there, or is
Yeah.
this? Isn't there
Yeah.
one with like some? Yeah, is there?
There's a
Okay.
few different, there's a couple different runs, I think, because there's the Green Lantern books that focus on a girl and a guy, right?
Yeah.
And then there's still one
That's
that has like the
that's
core. There's two different
that's Green.
series.
Yeah, that's Green Lanterns, and then there's Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns.
Okay. Gotcha.
That
I haven't read
those
any of
characters
that.
were introduced in New
There
52.
have I. All right, because when I was trying to do some background Google research, some of that stuff kind of pulled up, and I was like, "Wait, this is the one I'm looking for."
I forgot that Geoff Johns' run before the New 52. So he wrote like the first 20 issues of New 52 when the universe was revamped after Flashpoint. But the cliffhanger to New 52 was also one of the biggest cliffhangers that left me saying, "That's not fair. That's not fair, Geoff Johns. You're an asshole." Like I remember thinking that because that cliffhanger was so awesome. I'm gonna leave it open to the chat. What did you guys think of Green Lantern Rebirth? I'd love to know. Is it a good jumping on point for new readers, or is it too complicated for anybody? And I mean new readers as in like new readers to Green Lantern, not new readers to comic books. But yeah, you two are lucky because now you guys have Wikipedia, you guys have like YouTube channels that literally are called Comics Explained.
That's what I watched after I read it.
Yeah.
It's like somebody reading you a comic book, Maddie, okay?
No, he didn't read it word for word. Hey, that guy's really helpful. He is a really good. He's like talking to you. Like if I can't talk to you about it, I can watch a video.
Okay, well then, as long as he's a poor version of me, I'm okay with that.
We don't know.
Because like seriously, like back in my day, I if I needed comic book knowledge, I would go to my friend Dennis or my this other guy, Dave, that I knew that had been collecting comics for years, because we didn't have Wikipedia or YouTube to teach us like, oh yeah, that's how, or people at the comic book store that I worked at. Like when this was as this was happening, I was not reading Green Lantern. When I only read Green Lantern because it was part of the crossover with Superman, the Return of Superman, where all his his characters came back, and they kill him, and then eventually Hal became the Parallax. That was my first taste of Hal Jordan, was when he was like crazy and evil,
which is really cool. And his outfit was really cool.
Oh yeah, his outfit was awesome. And then Kyle became the Green Lantern of Sector 2814, so I thought that was cool. And Kyle is also sadly the one where this piece of shit, Major Force, stuck Alexa DeWitt in a refrigerator, and that's what started the refrigerator movement. Like for no reason at all.
Well, now we have Gelson on, and that's pretty great. So
yeah, if it wasn't for this panel, then we wouldn't have that awesome Secret Six or Birds of Prey and stuff like that. So
yeah,
kind of happy about this. Not sticking women in refrigerators. Don't.
Yeah, not that. We're not doing that cliche.
That's not hot at all. Look at that. Like how literally snaps his neck. That's so badass.
Really cool.
And that was coming out as I was reading these books, and I had no idea what Hal Jordan was.
So while we're waiting for comments about Green Lantern Rebirth, we need to figure out what we're going to read next.
I agree.
Oh yeah, have you all done it? I think. So Avatar says I think new readers to Green Lantern should start from the Geoff Johns Omnis. I completely agree.
You're like, I'm good with that one.
Yes, everybody should own it. Everybody should own this omnibus. It's great.
So what should we read next? Now, we were talking about, but you said there's not a lot of good runs for Captain Marvel, because we were both talking about that.
I was trying to think of one, but honestly, I've been enjoying Miss Marvel so much more.
It's so good.
Amanda
also said she's open to, and we talked about a little bit about doing some of the big DC events that neither of us have read.
Those two, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, like which ones?
Well, because I haven't read Infinite Crisis or anything with Infinite in the title.
Or Crisis.
I haven't read Flashpoint.
I would like to read that as well.
A lot of like the pre-2 stuff I haven't read. And even though I did read Blackest Night, Brightest Day, I don't know if I read it in the right order or anything, because I didn't read all the extra stories.
Did you read Brightest Day first?
I have no idea. No, I think I read Blackest Night first.
Wait. that was my question to you all.
Yes.
Can you quote Green Lantern Oath after reading this?
No.
No.
Oh!
No.
Come on.
It'll
I'll
get
start
there.
it.
It
In
was
Blackest Day.
in brightest night. No.
Maddie, come
The
on.
Green Lanterns. Oh gosh.
I don't know. Eventually it'll get there. It'll start to get in my head like the Dragon
Yeah, I gotta
Slave,
hear it more than just Ollie trying to say it, and then he's like,
Yeah,
I can't
basically.
remember the rest of it. Yeah, you
Poor
and me
Ollie.
both. Oliver Queen.
You'll be fine. You know what's cool is that each of the lanterns, the colors, have their own oath.
Oh, that's
Oh.
really cool.
It is very cool that Geoff Johns had to come up with these damn things.
Yeah.
Because, the Green Lantern Oath has been around forever.
Yeah.
So, okay, the problem with doing a DC event book, I feel like you would miss out on so much of Infinite Crisis if you didn't know.
Okay.
Because Infinite Crisis was done in the style of Annihilation. There were 4
Right.
miniseries, Countdown, who were the other ones? Villains United, Ranthanagar War, and what was the one with the magic? That sets up Infinite Crisis. Like, they got rid of all the magic beings, so then, like, it... Oh, and then there was Superman Sacrifice, where, spoilers, Wonder Woman does something that Batman and Superman do not agree with. There's all these books that set up Infinite Crisis in the style of Annihilation. I mean, you don't have to read them,
Okay.
but
We're also pretty quick
by the
readers, you know.
what's that?
Man, I can do it. We can take it.
Yeah,
We
we just
got
we have to make it longer than just a 6-issue.
We just need to lay out.
Okay. You all want to do Infinite Crisis? I mean, I'm game. That's in 2 weeks. That's a
Do I have
big book.
I have Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I
Yeah,
can
I'll
hook
have
you
to
up.
check if I have it. We might have to go over to your
I
house.
can- That's fine. You all can come over and then we'll sit here and read Infinite Crisis together. Which the omnibus is being re-released. I mean,
Yeah.
if you all want to tackle that, then fine with that. Somebody else, NATO said Lucifer
Someone
book
suggested.
1 should be our next read. Lucifer's solid. God, I wish they would do an omnibus of that. Clark NATO also said do Final Crisis, then explain what you read with graphs and PowerPoints. I'm going to go with not right now, man.
Ooh, that's gonna be difficult.
Yes, Clark NATO says, the omnibus reprint of Infinite Crisis is out on June 12th. That's my daughter's birthday. So,
look at that.
that book was going for like $500 at one time, and now the reprint is coming out. People have stopped buying them. So yes, I'm game. That is like like we're literally doing a Geoff Johns readathon. I'm happy to read more Geoff Johns. It gives me a reason to get that book off my shelf. I think the last time I read it was probably 4 years ago. So yeah, I'm good. And I can give you guys kind of a quick rundown of what was going on in the DC universe at the time, and having a little background with. Okay. So that kind of retcons also why characters were coming back from the dead too.
Okay.
Like, it explains why. But see, you would have to have a little knowledge of why these characters are even out there. Like in
Would
Crisis
you like
on
us
Infinite
to
Earth.
do that as like a longer one where we read it down the road, and maybe in the meantime do something shorter that we can do in a 2-week span?
I want you to enjoy it more if you
We got
kind
you.
of knew. Read, yeah, like if you got to read some of like you could jump into Flashpoint, but you wouldn't appreciate it as much if you hadn't read, Geoff Johns or Mark Waid's Flash.
Gotcha.
But because Infinite Crisis was, just this huge crossover that meant so much to people, and I feel like you would be missing out if you hadn't read some of the stuff beforehand. And I don't want to steal that away from you because I want you to enjoy it as much as I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can watch 25 videos on what you need to read before.
Well, maybe
Got a lot of time
that's
to
something we
work
can
with.
sit down and make like a timeline thing for then.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, and that way we can go ahead and have some stuff in like our schedule going forward,
Yes.
and then kind of split between back and forth, so like DC,
And
Marvel, and
honestly,
then like Image or Boom or something, and just kind of
Yeah, so we can get some independent stuff too. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, our chat's recommending stuff right now.
Oh, what else
What
we
we
got
got?
here? I'm pulling it up.
See,
Ooh,
the Crisis
I'm reading
stuff is way
Superman
convoluted.
Birthright right now.
Okay, we can do Superman Birthright. That's Mark Waid. I love that story.
It's so good.
I read that one.
I think you'd like it's they're doing Superman the way I like it, where he's like a
Oh, is
real
that the one you
person.
were talking about over lunch? No, where he has a
No,
wife and a no.
no, that's like the current run of Superman, but you would,
Okay.
I think you'd
Oh,
love
yeah.
it. It's really good though.
So read Identity Crisis. Infinite. Oh, wait, is that Identity Crisis? Then Final Crisis? Since everyone loves. Oh, Infinite Crisis.
Identity Crisis, the Law and Order, a Law and Order SVU of events.
Are y'all cool
Okay,
with that?
I did say it was your all's choice. So you can look through the chat. We can do a Batman story.
Yeah.
We can jump back to Marvel and do something from there if you all want to. It's up
I
to you.
always love a good Marvel comic.
Well,
So-
do we want to try to stagger it based on publisher each time?
I mean, we can. It's up to you all. I just want you all to enjoy a
that.
story that I did, or make me read
Yeah.
something crappy that you all want to read, like Civil War, which is
No,
I'm
I
not
don't want to
reading
read
Civil
not
War.
one of
again. I read it already. It's fine.
I mean, I'm open to a Marvel story. I just don't know what to read. Like I've talked about
Yeah.
before, I have no clue at all. I'd be down to read Cable and Deadpool after seeing the movie because I really liked Cable.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God, are you serious? We should read all 50 issues.
Yeah, are
'Cause
there
it's
50
wonderful.
issues?
trust me, I can read 50 issues pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's not hard. I got through that
Oh.
the new Avengers/Avengers for Infinity in the span of a week because I was like, "Oh, this is so exciting."
Well, should we do Cable and Deadpool?
I would love to do Cable and Deadpool, seriously. And you really don't have to know much because Fabian Icesa does a really good job of just, putting things that have happened all in the book. Philip Evans mentions a really good book that I also recommend is Planet Hulk.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes, we
Have y'all read that?
No, but I'd like to.
Yes.
The only Hulk-ish stuff I've read is She-Hulk, and that's still barely. I've read that one volume you picked up for me.
Yeah. I'd
Okay.
be down to do Planet Hulk.
Okay,
How
so
many-
yeah, all you
what are we looking
got
at
to, I think probably 12, 16, 18 issues, I think.
Oh, that's
together.
not bad at all.
And honestly, all you have to know is the Illuminati got together and said, "Hey, Hulk, quit smashing stuff," and they sent Bruce Banner into space, and that's pretty much how that starts.
Yeah. That would be exciting.
So let's do that. Let's do Planet Hulk for our next live show, which will be June 5th.
Okay.
5th.
And then maybe
June
we
5th.
can get together soon and lay out a DC timeline.
Yes.
Yeah,
For
so
that
I would- yeah, and I can get you guys reading some of the stuff so you can appreciate the stories a lot more, and then we can talk about it in depth. Which you two did though, but just more in depth. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
More in depth. Yeah.
Sounds
so
good.
so we will do Planet Hulk. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Philip, for the suggestion.
Yes, thank you, Philip.
For Jelly, I don't agree with you. Cable and Deadpool is wonderful. It's the best Cable and Deadpool book ever made. So, is there any questions from the chat not for me, because you all see my ugly mug all the time, but for these two lovely ladies that only come on every 2
Once every 2 weeks.
once every 2 weeks? Yeah, you can ask them. Well, I don't want to say anything, then that leaves a lot of weird things open, but
Yeah.
you can ask anything comic book related. Anything comic book related. That's what I meant.
Boy, Omar.
Yeah, I know. Opening those floodgates.
Embarrassing Omar stories.
Yeah.
They don't have any. 'Cause there's no
Oh, buddy, we have
such
so
thing.
many embarrassing
Yeah,
Omar
that's not
stories. Because Omar's my cousin, so I can tell you lots of stuff about Omar if you ever wanted to know.
I'm trying to think of good ones, but honestly, it's nothing that Omar wouldn't come out and talk about himself.
No,
It's
not
not
at
like
all.
you hide any embarrassing stories. You're open to tell me whatever all the time. So
Yeah, I am really open with anything. Like I am. For Jelly said he's new to the show. What comics are you into? I'll let you two answer that.
Okay.
So I'm super into DC right now, so I'm picking up like most of my collection is New 52 and Rebirth stuff. And I like to collect a lot of the Titans runs of stuff. I really like Titans, I love Donna, and I love Wonder Woman. And besides that, I love Nova. So anything Cosmic Marvel is great. Oh, and getting really into Booster Gold.
Because she's doing the cosplay.
Yes.
Yeah, cosplaying Blue Beetle next weekend.
Yeah.
No, not just Blue Beetle. Swimsuit Blue Beetle is how you're cosplaying it. That's awesome. Good for you. And your friend Kat is doing a booster
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
swimsuit booster goal. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I envy your life sometimes.
Me too. Wish I had time to do more cosplay. I don't do any of it.
And that's going to be showcased at Colossal Con, right?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Awesome. All right, what else do we have here? Is Omar a nerd? I can answer that. No, shut the hell up. He was asking me.
Why is
no,
Omar
he's not.
hotter with a beard?
That is. Thank you, Trish, for adding some. That's a good question. I'm not sure. New 52 Wonder Woman is really awesome.
Yes.
That is the Azzarello run with Cliff Chang.
Mhm.
I was also a fan of that. I like how it changed it went from like mythology and all that to like a horror story. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And originally I was turned off by the art. I was a little worried about it, but it really grew on me really quickly. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I can see that. It was
I was
very
asking the ladies, not you.
I'm gonna shut the hell up.
Somebody asked about independent titles.
Yeah.
So I'm still new to comics. We say independent. Does that like constitute what?
Like, does
It could be
Deadly Class count?
Yes, Deadly Class counts. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, it does? Okay, yeah, because I'm starting that because you and Tommy told me how amazing it is, and I want to see the TV show when it comes out. Omar made me read Pride of Baghdad, that Brian K. Vaughan, because he wanted me to bawl my eyes out about a couple of lions.
Oh man, read We Three next.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh. I don't know if I can do it.
Please. Oh my gosh. So does like Image and Boom count as independent, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Okay.
I love
Image is just
Heavy
a publisher.
Vinyl so much. Heavy Vinyl, and then
What
I've got
the
mine
hell
is
is
Snot
Heavy
Girl.
Vinyl?
It was called Hi-Fi Fight Club, but for legal reasons they weren't allowed to call it that anymore.
Oh,
And it's about these girls that work in a record store
that's awesome.
that also have a fight club, and so they like vigilantes.
Oh, that's cool.
And then Snot Girl's fantastic. She's a model who has allergies, and so I relate. Sorry, I just got excited.
No, I was reading the best app.
And Snot Girl, that's Brian O'Malley, or right, the guy that did
Scott Pilgrim?
Scott Pilgrim. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But today you messaged me, Maddie,
Yes.
because you read one of my favorite independent titles of all time.
God, it was raining and it was my lunch break and I was a little bit of a bad mood and it was perfect. And I was so emotional, but I was trying not to cry in Starbucks.
As if we haven't given this book enough praise on this
so
channel.
good.
If you don't know what God Country is, it's about this old guy in Texas who has Alzheimer's, and his son's family comes and visits him because he's really bad. He's really bad off, and it's really sad. But he remembers who he was and everything when he holds this magical sword, and it's so badass. And
even though I read it today, if we could do like a show one week to read it too.
Amanda,
Yeah, because I've never read it, so.
Oh, it's so good.
It's beautiful. I love it. I talk about that all the time. Okay, so Amanda is Amanda, raise your hand.
That's me. Me. I'm Amanda.
And
So that makes Maddie the other one.
Maddie's and what comics does the other lady like? That would be you, Amanda.
Well,
what comics do you like?
Well, see, I've been on a Marvel binge, so I did the New Avengers to get to Infinity, and then I did Secret Wars. I'm working on Cosmic Marvel right now, so I've just gotten into the Annihilation prologue. and I really love that. And I've started a little bit of Ultimate Spider-Man because I love Spider-Man. So I am really into Marvel. So that's why I don't have a lot of experience with DC at all. The Green Lantern was my first one. I have a lot of DC to choose from to get started reading. It's just I've just been on that Marvel kick, so that's what I've been reading so far. But yeah, so I'd say I really did like the New Avengers Infinity crossover event, the more current one, the 2013. I liked that, and the Secret Wars that came after.
Yeah, you've been reading some good stuff. I think both of you have. I just can't wait for both of you to read some. Well, Maddie, you've been reading for about a year now. Have you read something that you're like, man, this is horrible?
No, honestly, I've really liked everything. And so there's some books that people are like, no, that sucks. I'm like, I don't really agree. Like Red Hood and the Outlaws, I love, and everybody's like
no
shits on that in the group all the time.
There are some people that actually like Red Hood and the Outlaw.
Yes.
I mean, I like the art, so I'm gonna be guilty for buying that stupid omnibus when it comes out.
So
if I see it for like $30 for like a discounted price, hell yeah, I love Kenneth Rocafort.
I think the closest I've gotten to disliking something is maybe the end of Outsiders, but that's not the whole thing. The whole thing I like, but it's just the end, and I just kind of just scrolled through it. But that's it. I've never read anything and been like, this is garbage. You know?
How excited is Omar for Bendis on Superman?
He's so excited.
So excited.
Bendis is his favorite.
Ass cancer. Not at all.
Should we just
I mean, I don't hide the fact that I'm not a fan of Bendis.
Clearly.
You know, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. That's Superman special, and I really like that. Did you read that, Maddie? It came out last week. It was solid.
Was that not what was in DC Nation #0?
No. It's an actual Superman special.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
If you like, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Absolutely, you need to check it out. You would really like it. And okay, well, if there are no more questions, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you to my co-hosts, my wonderful, beautiful co-hosts, Amanda and Maddie, for putting up with my suggestions.
We always appreciate it, Omar.
As long as I'm making you read something good. Maybe, like I said, I should make you read something shitty. But then
what?
Maddie liked Red Hood and the Outlaw, so I don't know where I go from there.
Got my boy Roy. Okay, it's great.
Okay, sure. So our next live episode will be Eastern Standard Time on June 5th, Tuesday, June 5th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we will be talking about Planet Hulk. So please join us.
I'm excited.
And have you read a Hulk book at all? Either one of you two?
He's only appeared in stuff, but obviously all the Avengers, he's appeared in that stuff, but I've never actually seen it in him solo, so I'd like to see him fly solo once.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good book. You don't need to really know a lot about Hulk. And I never thought I would enjoy another Hulk story besides Peter David's Hulk. So it's really cool. That's a good one. I haven't read that one in a long time, but I'm excited to read it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you in 2 weeks. And I'll let you ladies say something if you want.
All right, guys. I guess we're out. Thank you for having us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys. That's all I've got.
That's good.